Palestine's story begins long ago. Its land witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Ancient Egyptians ruled here. Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians all left their mark. King David, around 1000 BCE, made Jerusalem the Israelite capital. This is a key moment for Jewish history. Centuries later, the Romans destroyed the Second Temple in 70 CE. This event is central to Jewish identity. Palestine's ancient history is a tapestry of civilizations. It laid the foundation for the complex present. Palestine's location made it a crossroads. It connected Asia, Africa, and Europe. This strategic location attracted conquerors. It also facilitated cultural exchange and trade. The region became a blend of languages, religions, and traditions. This mix continues to shape Palestine's diverse identity. Understanding its ancient past is key to understanding its present. The land witnessed the emergence of Judaism and Christianity. It is considered holy by both faiths. Jewish prophets walked these lands. Jesus preached his message here. These religions spread globally, but their shared origin in Palestine created a lasting bond. This shared history adds another layer of complexity. It underscores the region's religious significance. The Roman Empire fell. Palestine came under Byzantine rule. This era saw the region become predominantly Christian. Churches and monasteries were built. Pilgrims from across the Byzantine Empire flocked to the Holy Land. This period marked a distinct chapter in Palestine's story. Christianity flourished, leaving its mark on the land. The 7th century brought a new wave of change. Muslim armies conquered the region. Palestine became part of the Islamic caliphates. This ushered in a new era. Islam spread rapidly. Arabic became the dominant language. However, the Muslim rulers were tolerant. Jews and Christians were allowed to practice their faiths. They lived as dhimmis, protected people. Over the centuries, Palestine was ruled by different Muslim dynasties. The Abbasids, Fatimids, Seljuks, and Mamluks all left their mark. This period witnessed the construction of mosques, madrasas, and libraries. Islamic scholarship flourished. The land became a center of learning and trade. This long era shaped Palestine's cultural and religious landscape. In 1517, the Ottoman Empire conquered Palestine. They ruled for the next 4 centuries. This was a long period of relative stability. The Ottomans were efficient administrators. They maintained law and order. They allowed local communities to manage their own affairs. Life under Ottoman rule was generally peaceful. This era left its own imprint on Palestine's social fabric. World War I changed everything. The Ottoman Empire was defeated. Palestine came under British control. This was the beginning of a new era. The British were given a mandate by the League of Nations. They were supposed to prepare Palestine for independence. But this period was marked by rising tensions. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 exacerbated the situation. In this document, the British government promised to establish a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This declaration had far-reaching consequences. It encouraged Jewish immigration to Palestine. It raised concerns among the Arab population. They feared being displaced from their land. Jewish immigration to Palestine increased dramatically. Many Jews were fleeing persecution in Europe. They saw Palestine as their historic homeland. They were determined to build a new life there. However, this influx led to competition for land and resources. Tensions between Jewish and Arab communities escalated. Violence became more frequent. The British struggled to maintain order. They faced growing pressure from both sides. The Jewish community demanded more autonomy. The Arab community resisted Jewish immigration. The British found themselves caught in the middle. Their policies often favored Jewish interests. This further alienated the Arab population. The seeds of conflict were sown during this turbulent period. By 1947, the situation in Palestine was untenable. The British, unable to find a solution, referred the matter to the newly formed United Nations. The UN voted to partition Palestine into 2 states, one Jewish and one Arab. Jerusalem was to be placed under international control. This plan was accepted by the Jewish leadership, but it was rejected by the Arab leaders. They saw it as a violation of their rights. On May 15, 1948, Israel declared independence. The surrounding Arab states immediately launched an attack. They were determined to prevent the creation of a Jewish state. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War had begun. This conflict would have a profound impact on the region. It led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. The war ended in 1949 with an Israeli victory. Israel expanded its territory beyond the UN partition lines. The remaining parts of Palestine came under the control of Egypt and Jordan, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank respectively. Over 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes. They became refugees in neighboring countries. The 1948 war had a devastating impact on the Palestinian people. They lost their homeland, they were scattered across the Middle East. The war created a humanitarian crisis. It also left a legacy of bitterness and resentment. The Palestinian refugee issue remains unresolved to this day. Section 5. Occupation and Resistance. The 1967 War and its Aftermath. The 1967 Six-Day War was another turning point. Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. Israel achieved a swift and decisive victory. They captured the West Bank, Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. This victory had far-reaching consequences for the region. It led to the military occupation of Palestinian territories. The occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip had a profound impact on the lives of Palestinians. They were subjected to Israeli military rule. Their freedom of movement was restricted. Their economic opportunities were limited. Many Palestinians resisted the occupation. They organized protests and demonstrations. Some resorted to armed struggle. The international community condemned Israel's occupation. The UN Security Council passed Resolution 242. This resolution called on Israel to withdraw from the occupied territories. It also affirmed the right of all states in the region to live in peace within secure and recognized boundaries. However, Israel refused to fully withdraw. They began to establish settlements in the occupied territories. The settlement enterprise became a major obstacle to peace. The international community considered the settlements illegal under international law. However, Israel continued to expand them. The settlements exacerbated tensions between Israelis and Palestinians. They also made a two-state solution increasingly difficult to achieve. Section 6. The Oslo Accords, a promise unfulfilled. In the early 1990s, a glimmer of hope emerged. Secret negotiations between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, took place in Oslo, Norway. These talks led to the signing of the Oslo Accords in 1993 and 1995. The accords were hailed as a breakthrough. They aimed to create a framework for peace. The Oslo Accords were based on the principle of land for peace. Israel agreed to gradually withdraw from parts of the occupied territories. In return, the PLO recognized Israel's right to exist. They renounced terrorism. The accords established the Palestinian Authority, or PA. This body was granted limited self-governance in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. However, the Oslo Accords failed to deliver lasting peace. The negotiations stalled over key issues. These included the status of Jerusalem, the fate of Palestinian refugees, and the dismantling of Israeli settlements. Moreover, violence continued. Palestinian militant groups launched attacks against Israel. Israel responded with military force. The Second Intifada, which erupted in 2000, shattered the fragile peace. This Palestinian uprising was met with a harsh Israeli crackdown. The conflict resulted in thousands of casualties on both sides. It also led to the construction of the separation barrier. This barrier, which cut through Palestinian land, further fragmented the West Bank. Section 7. Gaza, a cycle of violence. The Gaza Strip, a densely populated coastal enclave, has witnessed recurring cycles of violence. After Israel withdrew its settlers and soldiers from Gaza in 2005, Hamas, a militant group, gained control of the territory. Israel imposed a blockade on Gaza, restricting the movement of people and goods. Israel has launched several military operations against Gaza in recent years. These operations, often triggered by rocket fire from Gaza into Israel, have resulted in significant casualties and destruction. The 2014 Gaza war in particular caused widespread devastation. The conflict left thousands dead, mostly Palestinian civilians. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire. The blockade has crippled the economy. Unemployment is rampant. Access to basic services, such as healthcare and clean water, is limited. The UN has warned that Gaza is on the verge of becoming uninhabitable. The international community has called for an end to the blockade. However, Israel has maintained it, citing security concerns. The situation in Gaza remains highly volatile. The cycle of violence continues. There is a constant risk of escalation. A lasting solution requires addressing the underlying causes of the conflict. This includes ending the occupation, lifting the blockade, and finding a just solution for the Palestinian refugees. Section 8, West Bank, a land divided. The West Bank, located east of Israel, is home to over 2.5 million Palestinians. The Oslo Accords divided the territory into 3 areas: A, B, and C. Area A is under Palestinian civil and security control. Area B is under Palestinian civil control and Israeli security control. Area C, which comprises over 60% of the West Bank, is under full Israeli control. The West Bank is characterized by a complex patchwork of Israeli settlements, Palestinian towns and villages, and Israeli military checkpoints. The settlements, considered illegal under international law, continue to expand. This expansion further fragments the West Bank. It also undermines the possibility of a contiguous and viable Palestinian state. The Israeli military presence in the West Bank is pervasive. Checkpoints and roadblocks restrict Palestinian movement. The separation barrier, which snakes through the West Bank, isolates Palestinian communities. It also separates farmers from their land. These restrictions have a devastating impact on the Palestinian economy. The Palestinian Authority, or PA, based in Ramallah, exercises limited authority in the West Bank. It faces challenges in providing basic services to its people. The PA's legitimacy has been eroded by corruption and its inability to improve the lives of Palestinians under occupation. Section 9. The Path Forward, International Law, and a Just Peace. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is one of the most intractable conflicts in the world. It has claimed countless lives. It has caused immense suffering. A just and lasting peace remains elusive. However, there is a growing consensus that a two-state solution, based on the 1967 borders, is the only viable path forward. A just peace requires an end to the occupation. Israel must withdraw from the occupied territories. The settlements must be dismantled. The Palestinian refugees must be granted the right of return. Jerusalem's status must be resolved through negotiations. Both states must be allowed to live in peace and security. The international community has a crucial role to play in achieving peace. It must hold both sides accountable to their commitments. It must provide economic assistance to rebuild the Palestinian territories. It must support efforts to promote dialogue and reconciliation. A just and lasting peace is in the interest of all parties. The path ahead is challenging, but the alternative is more conflict, more suffering, and more instability. The time has come for a new approach, an approach based on international law, human rights, and a shared commitment to peace. Only then can Israelis and Palestinians hope to live in a future free from violence and oppression.